This story follows Takudo, a hardcore fan of a strategy and management game called Eternal Nations. Even while hospitalized, he spends his days playing Eternal Nations until he literally dies doing so. But this isn't the final line. Seconds later, he awakens in a forest, sitting on a throne amid ancient ruins, and the first thing he notices is how pure the air is there. A woman approaches, asking if he has finally woken up. And when she shows her face, he immediately recognizes her. It's Atu, an elf character from the game Eternal Nations. She calls Takudo, "Your Majesty," which totally confuses him about what's going on. As a good anime veteran, Takudo soon realizes that somehow he was transported into the universe of Eternal Nations. But what should he do now? After all, the only person who calls the king, "Your Majesty," is the sovereign of Mynoghra, the nation Takudo commanded within the game. Atu speaks again, now calling him Takudo-sama. She says that Takudo was the first player to beat Nightmare Mode using Mynoghra, the most challenging civilization. According to Atu, this put him at the top of the rankings, making him a legendary player. Takudo becomes even more lost. How can a game character have information that breaks the fourth wall? Atu reveals that she remembers everything: victories, defeats, every phrase spoken by Takudo through the screen, and the entire journey they lived together. Moved, Takudo cries upon hearing this. He says how happy he is to finally be able to talk with Atu, his favorite character, and she replies that she feels the same. Still, the doubt remains. How did he end up there? Takudo then asks if it was Atu who brought him, but she states she doesn't know how she arrived in that place either, as she appeared there only minutes before. She's only sure of one thing. They are in a world that conveys the essence of Eternal Nations, and no matter where they are, Atu is happy to finally meet her real king. Holding his hands, she invites him to restart this journey from scratch with her. Atu reveals the desire to build a new empire with Takudo, where only the two of them will live. And since Takudo has no other purpose in life, he agrees to share this ideal. When he extends his hand to seal this pact, Atu assumes her NPC side and introduces herself as Sludatu, an illegitimate daughter born from a devastated world, swearing that from now on, mind, soul, and body belong to Takuto. Atu was supposed to be a villain, but that sounds so cliché that both of them feel awkward. Still, Takudo plays along and declares that, alongside Atu, his right hand, he will found the most feared evil empire, Mynoghra. He asks if Atu remembers what the first step of the Mynoghra Empire was. She proudly responds that they must isolate themselves like pure hermits, avoiding any contact with the outside world. For that, Takuto summons an emergency scout, a long-legged insect. Since Mynoghra is a civilization focused on ruins and darkness, all its creatures are quite repulsive, including this scout. Still, Takudo orders the bug to explore the surroundings, and Atu emphasizes that it must not fail the king. The scout obeys immediately and goes on its mission. Takudo then realizes he can see what the insect sees, and this makes him and Atu notice that this new world faithfully follows the rules of the game. Takudo then explains how he summoned the scout. His current magic power is 200, and the summoning cost 100 MP. He thinks about what to do with the rest. He could build a base spending 20 MP, but also considers summoning a warrior for protection. However, that costs more than his current total. In the game, Atu is a heroic unit, powerful in battle, but her level is still 3 since they just started the match. Even so, they move forward and, thanks to the scout's reconnaissance, Takudo manages to get a good sense of the surroundings, which are full of endless trees. This makes the place ideal for the Mynoghra base. But Atu finds it strange that there are no animals or food nearby. Since it's dangerous to move around there, Takudo decides to send the scout to explore an even larger radius. Atu feels sad for sensing she's not being useful to her king, but Takudo says that just having her by his side is more than enough. The compliment moves Atu so much that she falls in love with him right then. Meanwhile, the scout locates a camp where several dark elves have taken shelter. Takudo is unsure what to do. If they invade another people's territory unintentionally, they might get into trouble. Therefore, the best move now is to stay hidden. Atu says that if something goes wrong, the two of them can simply run away. This encourages Takudo, who decides to keep observing the dark elves from afar and try to find out what they are doing there. But out of nowhere, 3 dark elves come running toward them, putting the two in a tense situation. Takudo can hardly believe it. The dark elves he planned to avoid are now right in front of him. He and Atu wonder how this meeting will go. In moments like these, the best choice is to stay calm. And then while the dark elves are not thinking about killing anyone, they had been expelled from the city where they lived, and trying to survive, they led their people deep into the forest seeking shelter. After a long journey, they found rest in the cursed land. But they have no food, and this threatens the lives of their children. Their leader, Captain Guy, walks through the devastated forest with his men. They are worried that the journey was in vain, since the land is cursed and impossible to find food. Some murmur that it would have been better to have died in the city, as there the end seems certain. They complain about rumors regarding the forest, saying it was cursed by a man, and that no being or feeling can survive there. Guy tries to cheer them up. He says that if they lose hope now, the children won't have a future. He reminds them that the little ones trust them and that they cannot return with nothing. Even so, as he walks, he reflects on his words. Deep down, he knows they are right. The chances of surviving there are almost nil, but even if everyone is afraid and wants to give up, he is the captain. It's up to him to lead them to victory. As he continues walking, Guy senses the presence of Takudo and Atu and panics. He fears they might be attacked right there and lose his group. What comes next may decide his people's fate, so he needs to act with diplomacy. When he arrives, he sees Takudo looking like a dark spirit and Atu with a more normal appearance. Guy immediately kneels, followed by his men. He admits that he unintentionally invaded their territory and should not have come there. Atu demands to know why he appeared in a forbidden place. Guy explains everything: how they were banished from the city, how they fled with nothing, the long journey, and the hungry children waiting. He speaks nervously, even more so because Atu casts a cold and threatening look. He thinks he will be killed, but then Takudo asks if he is hungry. At first, Guy does not answer until Atu pressures him to respond to the master. Then he says yes. Immediately, Takudo conjures some apples for him. It is the first time Guy has seen an apple. He doesn't even know that it is food. Takudo says they are juicy inside and that he will like it. Guy hesitates, unsure if it is safe, but when he turns around, he notices that his soldiers are already eating. Atu orders him to eat too, but Guy is still suspicious. Takudo then conjures pears for him. Now Guy begins to distrust Takudo's intentions. The Dark Elves have never been well accepted. They have always faced hostility, so someone helping them so spontaneously seems suspicious. He tells Takudo that he prefers to take the fruits to the children who stayed in the forest. Before he even finishes the sentence, Takudo summons even more fruit. Guy is speechless and grateful. Meanwhile, the children in the forest are nearly dying, silently waiting for help. Soon they smell a familiar scent and realize they were right. Guy and his troop are back. Not only did they return, but they brought food and hope. Announces that it's time for a feast, and everyone gets excited. Hungry children devour everything and begin to recover. One of the elves asks Guy where he got all that food, but he doesn't go into details. He only says that luck has finally caught up with them. However, in his mind, he can't stop thinking about the dark figure he met earlier. After the meal, everyone sleeps well, while Guy stays awake near the fire, watching and reflecting on the events. An elder, Moltar, interrupts his thoughts. Moltar thanks him for his effort, but comments that the fruit tastes like nothing he has ever tried before. He has lived 200 years and never savored anything like that. Guy agrees. When he tried it, he also felt something different. Moltar asks where he got it. Guy says they found a legend in the forest. They were wandering and ended up before a legendary figure. Moltar wonders if it was the king of the ruins. According to ancient stories, this king would appear when the world was saturated, destroying everything and plunging all into darkness. But no one knows if these accounts are true, as it has never been seen with their own eyes. Moltar asks if Takudo introduced himself as such, but Guy says he didn't even reveal his name. He only spoke through a servant. Moltar insists that a king of ruins never gives anything for free. What did Guy offer in exchange? Guy replies that it was only Takudo's generosity. Moltar is not convinced. He says beings of darkness don't act out of kindness. He insists on calling Takudo the Great, emphasizing that he only wanted to help. Moltar says that title doesn't suit someone like the King of Ruin, but Guy holds his ground. He saved lives, so he deserves respect. Guy then wonders, would it have been better if they all died than accept that help? Moltar admits there's truth in what he says. He affirms that when the time comes to settle the debt, he himself will take care of it with Takudo, so no one needs to worry for now. Guy looks at his people and wonders if they will ever be able to sleep peacefully. Maybe one day they will. At the same time, Atu gets angry with Takudo for spending mana feeding strangers. She forces him to kneel, and he tries to justify himself, saying he felt compassion. This surprises her. She reminds him they still don't know if Mynoghra will be peaceful or full of war, and that maybe they'll need all that mana later. She considers it a waste, but she restrains herself. She shouldn't scold her king like that, and he reminds her that he can only live there with her by his side. They are a team. He admits that when the Dark Elves arrived, he found it hard to interact, maybe because he's shy. Atu didn't even notice that. She thought he was just acting like a true monarch, speaking only through his servant. They joke around while discussing until their pet returns with a new report from the reconnaissance mission. What is the real goal in that game world? Will they manage to survive? After all, society rejected him, blaming him,